Good morning, everyone. Today I will cover chapter 1 in this video, and let's get started. So in this chapter, we're just going to get a little bit more familiar with computers, what we use them, the parts of the computers, and just in general, why do we need them, why do we use them. So one of the most important parts, though, we need to realize that computers are not only our laptops or our personal computers that we have at homes. Computers are everywhere. It's our phone. Our phone is a computer. Then if you have a smartwatch, that is also a computer. Your MP3 player used to be also a computer. A radio, anything that has any technical parts to it can be considered a computer as long as it has the processor. And obviously, we know that our lives cannot function the same way as they do right now without computers, because almost everything that we do depends on it. When you're at school, you're currently watching this video on a computer while you're getting your education, right? So literally everything in our lives consists of something that has to do with computers. On this slide, you can see some examples of what we would use computers for. So for school, for emails, for your online classes like this one, for analyzing data, for making your presentation, any business transaction. If you're starting your own business, you will need a computer. You will need to learn and know how to work with it. So it's common knowledge. One thing about computers is that they are designed to do any job that their programs tell them to do. And us as software developers, we create those programs. So basically, a person controls the computer. The computer cannot just do things on its own. There's always a person behind it that wrote a program. And what is a program? A program is just a set of instructions, literally, an algorithm that a computer will follow to perform a certain task that you need to be performed. For example, here we have Microsoft Word and PowerPoint. So if you need to write a document, what will you do? You will go and use a program called Microsoft Word to write a document. Same with PowerPoints. If you need to create one, you will go and use a program for it. And commonly referred to, the programs, they're referred to as software. That is where the software developer term comes from. Someone who develops software, someone who develops programs for computers. Two important concepts that we need to cover is hardware and software. What are the difference between the two? So the physical devices that our computers are made of, everything that you can see or you can hold in your hands is referred to as hardware. But everything that is virtual, everything that's inside of the computer that we can't really see physically, referred to as software. That's the easiest way to differentiate the two. So let's look at some elements of hardware. What do we have here? So we have the CPU. This is what it looks like right here, CPU. Then we have our main memory. And we will cover all of these components a little bit later. But for now, this is all you need to know. This is the CPU. This is the main memory. Then we have our input devices that are right here. And we have our output devices right here. And we have some secondary storage devices, obviously. So CPU stands for Central Processing Unit. It's basically the heart of your computer. And the CPU is always also referred to as the processor. So the CPU processes everything that comes to the computer that you ask it to do. Whenever you write a program, CPU is the one responsible for assigning tasks to each of the other parts of the computer whenever a task needs to be done. So kind of like the brain, the heart, you name it. Without a CPU, the most important part, without the CPU, your computer cannot run any software. It doesn't matter how easy it is. It doesn't matter how small your program is. It will not run. Because what? Because the CPU is responsible for running your program. This is the first programmable computer that we have here. The name is ENIAC, right here. It was built in 1945, and it was designed to calculate artillery ballistic tables for the US Army. And this is the CPU. This whole picture is the CPU. Imagine if our computers were like this today. It would be horrible. It was 8 feet tall, 100 feet long, and it weighed 30 tons. 30 tons. That's crazy. However, this is what we're working with right now, right here. Right here we have our CPU. Sorry about that. Here. This is our CPU. It's very small. It is much more powerful than the ENIAC. It can do a lot more tasks per second than the ENIAC could do. And right now we call it microprocessors just because it's really small. I mean, look at the size of this thing and then look at the size of this thing. You cannot call those the same way. So this is the processor, this is the microprocessor. But if you call this a processor, you will not be wrong. The next part of hardware is what we call main memory. So this is where all of the work happens after the CPU assigns all of the work to different parts of your computer. This is where it's all stored, okay? So computer will store the program that is currently running and all of the data that it might need in main memory. And the most important thing about main memory is that all of it will be erased when your computer is turned off. So whenever you turn off your computer, all of your main memory erases, and then once you start it back up, that's when the new main memory starts appearing. And you also need to know that it's commonly referred to as RAM, which stands for random access memory, and it only means that the locations of the memory is accessed randomly, and we will get more into details later. We also have a read-only memory, which is called ROM. And what that means is in this part of your computer, the important information gets stored that cannot be deleted. So whenever your computer stores your operating system or any program that has to be on your computer for your computer's good execution and work performance, it is going to be in read-only memory. So its contents will not be deleted. We are all familiar with secondary storage devices such as disk drives, floppy disks, USBs, you name it. And what they do is they just store information for long periods of time. Whatever, if you need something to be stored somewhere, your program or some files, pictures, videos, doesn't matter, you will store it on your secondary storage device. And one of them is a disk drive. It's very popular. It is stored, the data that you put on the disk drive stored magnetically by encoding it onto a circular disk. Most of your computers, they have an internal disk drive, such as, have you ever seen like drive C or drive D? This is what is called a disk drive. Then we also have SSDs, which are solid state drives. Then we have USB drives. I'm not really going to go into details on those because it's not really relevant, but just so you know that they exist. Optical devices, CDs or DVDs, they're not really popular right now, as probably all of you are aware, but it's also an option. And there's also cloud storage. So cloud storage, it gets more and more popularity with years, because it's very convenient. There is a company that can store all of your information for you, all of your data. For example, a Google Drive or your iCloud. This is what is called a cloud storage. It's very popular in businesses right now, like moving your servers to cloud. Very, very popular. Moving on to input devices. So what are input devices? Anything that, any device that can collect some information for you and send it to a computer is called input devices. So, and any data that your computer collects from you, from the user, is called input. And these are some common devices that we have: a keyboard, a mouse, a touchscreen, scanner, a microphone, a digital camera. Literally anything that can get information from you, from a person, inside the computer will be called an input device. And then output devices is the opposite. So anything that the computer can give you is called an output device. So a monitor, a printer, a speaker, you name it. Now moving on to software. So as I said before, everything your computer does is controlled by software. Your computer will not do a single thing that you don't tell it to do. So there are two categories of our software. There's system software and there's application software. Application software is the most popular of the two, and it's probably, I would say, 99% of the market right now is people working on application software. System software is basically, how I think of it, is everything that your computer needs to run. That's going to be your system software. So, operating system, such as Windows or Linux or Mac OS, that's your operating system. That will be a system software. Then any utility programs that will enhance your computer's execution and your computer's working performance, and any software development tools. So any tools that you as a software developer will use to create programs is considered system software. However, application software is completely different. Application software can be anything. So any social media, any word processing program, any database creating program, PowerPoints, this is all application software. This is all I had for this video. In the next video, we're gonna cover how computers store data, as well as a little bit of other things. See you in the next video.